Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a good night. I am King Piggly. This is Gaming Imperfectly, and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new to the channel, I am King Piggly, and I hope you like what you see. And no matter what time in the world it is, where you're watching this, thank you so much for being here. And let's get into today's story, because it is a true mystery. And not only does it include one person that went missing, but two people that went missing on the same day, less than 40 miles from one another. Stick around. It gets weird. Alright folks, we're going to go back into Missing 411 today. As I've told you guys before, it's a book series by a guy named David Paulides. He's a police detective with over 35 years experience. Once he retired, he got into helping identify and try to solve missing cold cases and missing cases from around North America. And, you know, I think it's super important. I think these stories should be kept alive. And the idea that these people are out there still to this day, a lot of them never found, is just irreprehensible. It's not okay, because their families are struggling and are worried, always worried, and probably never, most of them never get closure. Some of the older stories, you know, you just never get any closure. But today's stories, guys, comes out of Idaho. And today's story actually goes back to 2018. So very short time ago, 2 years ago, guys. There was a lady named Connie Johnson. And she's 76 years old. She was a teacher. Once she retired, everything about Connie, she was a wonderful human being. Everybody says this. They loved her, loved her, loved her. She was a wonderful person. After she was a school teacher, Connie actually became a ranger, a wildlife ranger in that area, working in the national parks, because she loved being outdoors, she loved helping people, and it was something she was really into. Again, she's an outdoor type person. She had a dog named Ace that she took everywhere with her, and then as Connie even got older and retired from National Park Service and everything else, she still stuck around, and she worked for an outfitting company called Ritchie Outfitting in this part of Idaho that would take hunters into the back country on horseback and rugged terrain. They would take them back there, and they would let them hunt elk and fish and do all this stuff. Well, Connie got on with Ritchie Outfitters and became a cook for them, a chef for the hunters at base camp in this remote camping area. So one year, Connie, in fact, it was in October the 5th, guys, of 2018, Connie was up at this remote camp, and all the hunters and stuff had left. Connie and her dog Ace were the only two individuals at camp at that point in time. On the 3rd of October, the ranger station actually received radio communication from Connie at this base camp, but the transmission was garbled and unintelligible. They couldn't understand what she was saying. She was talking to them, she was saying something, but they weren't getting it. For whatever reason, is still unknown to this day. So on the 5th of October, the date I was telling you about, on the 5th of October, off they went, rangers and whatnot, to that camp area, and the hunters all showed back up to the camp area. No Connie, no Ace. They looked high, they looked low. There was no sign of a struggle, guys. There was no blood. There was no sign of like I said, a mountain lion or something grabbed Connie, a bear. Guys, bears are brutal. Mountain lions are brutal. They will claw you to pieces, and they leave prints. The bears don't hover, and neither do mountain lions. They leave tracks. So when they brought in dogs and they launched this huge search for Connie, I'm talking about they sent in helicopters, aircraft from the local Air Force got involved. They sent in helicopters there. They had multiple dog teams on the ground, 4 dog teams on the ground. No sign of Connie. They couldn't track her anywhere. It's like she just vanished, gone. So days went by, weeks went by. Connie's family's looking for her. Everybody's looking for her. They're trying to find her. But after about 2 weeks of searching, of course, they have to give up search. There's only so many resources that goes along, with a search. They just can't do it forever. Anyway, after looking for Connie for weeks, they had to give up the search, and they just couldn't find her. But 15 days later, 15 miles away, all right, Ace shows up. Who shows up? Ace, the dog. And you know what? He looks fine. Like, he looks like he's in good shape. Like, nothing's wrong with this dog. He's not emaciated. He's not starving. He's not dehydrated. For any animal that's been out in the wilderness running around in Idaho for over 2 weeks, he looked exceedingly well. They actually flew him to a veterinarian. He got checked up. They did a checkup on him. They worked him out and everything else. They flew him back. I'm sure they took contents of his stomach samples, but those have not been disclosed. Because the thing about wilderness areas and national parks and national service land is that it's federal land. Even though it's considered public land, which means it belongs to you and I, the federal government controls it. And the information that they release is not up to Freedom of Information Act or anything else. And that was the case with Connie. So there wasn't any information about what they discovered with the dog, other than the fact that the dog was in great shape. Who knows, guys? They took the dog back to the camp where Connie and him went missing, and some hope that maybe Ace, who loved Connie, like I said, Ace and Connie were inseparable. All right, the fact that he showed back up doesn't bode well for Connie, but when they took the dog back to the campsite in which Connie went missing from, hoping that Ace would lead them to Connie, it didn't happen. Ace didn't go anywhere. He just stayed in camp, you know. So it's really, really odd that that is what happened. And to this day, no sign of Connie has ever been found. Her family to date has still not had her declared legally dead, although they are, from reports, moving in that direction, which is super sad because, I mean, sometimes you have to face the facts, and after 2 years plus of time missing, Connie's now been missing going on 3 years. So, you know, a little over 3 years now. So it's a little sad, guys. But Connie shouldn't be forgotten. But that's not where our story ends today. Remember when I said 2 people went missing? And that leads me to Terrence Woods Jr. Now, Terrence Wood was a 20-year-old man. He was quite successful. He had graduated college. He had actually worked in television as a producer and a guy behind the scenes kind of guy. And he was actually doing very well. He worked on The Voice in Britain. So he had moved to England for a time and worked on The Voice there, and he had actually won awards for his work in the business, in show business, and was doing exceedingly well for himself. I mean, the guy was just an exceptional human being from all accounts. His family was quite proud of him. He didn't have drug problems. He didn't have any kind of weirdness going on in his life. In fact, he was a good family guy. He loved his parents. He loved his siblings. And just an all-around hard-working dude. Anybody that had worked with this guy in the past said that he was exceptional at his job and that it was a pleasure to work with him. He moved on from The Voice and actually started working for a show you guys might know called Gold Rush. And that's on, you know, television currently. So he was working on Gold Rush, and they were actually going up to Pete's Mine in Idaho. They were looking for a new place to mine and dig, that kind of thing. And he was out with the crew and all of that stuff, and they were in. Now where he is 40 miles south of where Connie went missing. And on October the 5th of 2018, as they're making their way through this back country, the cast and the crew of the show Gold Rush, Terrence being there with them, nobody said they noticed anything strange. In fact, they said Terrence was being Terrence that day. He had made some phone calls, and he was joking, and he was laughing, and nothing seemed out of the norm. As they're making their way back into the deep country of Idaho, guys, this is remote, all right? I mean, remote. There's nothing out there, all right? And so Terrence and his guys are making their way out there, and all of a sudden, Terrence looks at everybody, drops his radio, drops his walkie-talkie, and then just sprints off this embankment and down this mountainside, just assholes and elbows. Everybody that saw this happen says it is the weirdest thing they've ever seen. That this guy, this young, athletic, 20-year-old guy, just all of a sudden dropped everything and ran like he was running for his life. Like something was after him. And then took off down this mountainside and into the forest. And people are yelling for him. Terrence, come back. What the heck? Terrence. No, Terrence said balls to that. Whatever got into Terrence, he was out. Whatever got into Terrence is still unknown to this day, but something scared the crap out of Terrence for a man to all of a sudden drop everything when he's surrounded by people and haul ass off into the woods as fast as his little legs could carry him. But that's exactly what Terrence did. And as he ran off into the tree line and everybody yelling for him to come back, Terrence was oblivious to their calls and just disappeared into the woods of Idaho, into the remote wilderness thereof. They immediately contacted authorities. Of course they did. You know, I mean, they tried to yell for him, but he had dropped his walkie-talkie. I mean, he dropped everything. He just took off running down this mountain at top speed. they called the authorities, got the authorities to come in, and they started immediately. A massive search was launched for Terrence. And then they brought in dog teams, people on horseback. They brought in helicopters, the whole shebang, guys. And not a single trace of Terrence has been found to this day. All right. So, Connie Johnson, all right, up on Big Fog Mountain is what it was called. Big Fog Mountain is where she disappeared. So she's at a remote camp in Big Fog Mountain and disappears with her dog Ace, who then shows up 15 days later perfectly fine, even though he's supposedly been out in the wilderness for 15 days. All right, but no trace of Connie has ever been found. Now, it's easy to say that a 76-year-old woman disappearing out in the woods, well, you know, maybe she got dementia. Maybe she bonked her head, was confused, and wandered off. But it doesn't stop the fact that no canines can track these people. It doesn't stop the fact that there is no sign of Connie. And it doesn't stop the fact that her dog shows up 15 miles away, 15 days later, perfectly fine, but there's never been a trace of Connie. Who knows? But even weirder than that, on the exact same day that she went missing, okay, Terrence Woods Jr., 40 miles south of her, all right, all of a sudden freaks out for unknown reasons. I mean, he's standing there with a group of people. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't do, you know, he's not a, there's nothing in his history that shows that all of a sudden Terrence just had a mental breakdown for some reason and drops everything. Like I said, earlier that day, he had actually called and talked with his father, and his father said he sounded perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with him at all. And he was making plans to come home, that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, just talk between your father and son. But nothing, no warning signs, no red flags of any kind. Suddenly, Terrence just drops all of his belongings on the ground and runs fast as he can, as fast as a human can, down a mountainside in rugged terrain. I mean, that's crazy in itself, guys. I mean, I don't know if you know about the mountains of Idaho, but Google some of those images. I'll put some of these images up so you can see what it would be like for a man just all of a sudden take off and run into the woods there, because going downhill there in that rocky terrain and everything was crazy in the first place. How he didn't fall and bust his ass is unknown to me. But I tell you this much, he didn't, and he made that tree line, and when he hit that tree line, he was gone. And no sign of this guy has ever been found today. And again, dogs, everything else. So what is going on in Idaho? Because these are just two cases. That particular area around Big Fog Mountain, that whole area right there, has actually had numerous disappearances over the years. These two people are not the only people to ever disappear from that area. In fact, there is at least 8 people that have disappeared from that exact area over the course of the last 50 years. But on the same day, for 2 people to go missing and to never have a trace be found of them again is exceptionally strange, guys. I mean, it's so weird. So, for all you at-home computer internet detectives, I'd love to hear what your opinion is on these 2 cases. You know, what happened to Connie? What happened to Terrence? What's going on in Idaho? What's your opinions? What's your theories? I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, please smash in that like button if you enjoyed this video. It helps me out, lets me know that you're enjoying the content, which is super important to me. And if you've been here this long, I surely hope you'll consider subscribing. Keep coming back, hit that bell, get the notifications, all that good jazz. But that's it for King Piggly today, guys. I am out of here, and I will see you guys in the next video.